Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT news. A major Rostermania drama going down within the last 24 hours, especially on the Sentinels side, with now major rumours potentially confirming that Sacy is gone from this Sentinels roster. Whatever the reason for it, that seems to be the case with so much other roster drama going down elsewhere as well, especially on the NRG side with Crashies, it seems, confirmed out of their roster. Who's going to be their replacement? FNS might be giving us some hints as to who that's going to be. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Lucas Rowe and Weber kind of making up after the drama that we saw yesterday. Pretty funny. This was another potential drama of yesterday on re-evaluation of VCT spots. Now this, to be honest, we'll talk about the reaction here from Riot Games themselves in a second, but this to some extent is an inevitability. Like we have, what is it right now? 40 teams initially in the various regions. Then there's the Ascension team as well, make it 44 this year. We're going to go up to 48, of course, teams around the world of VALORANT over the 4 leagues. So those 48 teams are not going to stay the same forever. At some point, organizations are going to come, they're going to go. That is what it is. So every year, they are going to be re-evaluating, to some extent, the slots of certain teams. And the rumor had it that MIBR and Global Esports, their position, their slot is going to be re-evaluated after the 2025 season because it's a partnership league. If one of the partners or multiple of the partners aren't as good as potentially other partners that Riot could choose, they are within their rights to make a change and say, okay, your partnership has been terminated, we're going to partner some other team instead. That's pretty chaotic, especially for the players involved, but that is the nature of the ecosystem that they've made here for VALORANT esports. So that was the rumour, that their slots are set for re-evaluation after next season. These aren't the only ones. Several other teams also set to undergo similar re-evaluations. Now, Leo Farrier actually did comment on this specifically yesterday and says, the speculation that we're currently re-evaluating teams is false. We do a performance review of every team at the end of each season and we'll re-evaluate all teams ahead of the new partnership cycle starting in 2027. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, to be fair, the article doesn't necessarily say they are undergoing re-evaluation. It just says they are set to, but he says that they're not currently doing it, which, well, at least that tweet didn't say that anyway. But yeah, sure, he does confirm that this is a thing and they will do it at some point. The question is when. He does confirm, though, that, yeah, they are going to do it at the end of every season to some degree as like a performance review. But when, you know, as and when they're actually going to kick out partners or change partnerships, that will potentially happen a couple of years further down the line. Interesting couple of details that organizations that invest in challenges are therefore considered in like higher regard in terms of the partnership stuff. So that's the other point, isn't it? If you're a franchised team and you don't have any support in challenges, but yet you have, let's say, a challengers team that's putting a lot of support in there, but also they're looking to get into the partnership league, then Riot have a question to answer on which of those organizations they keep. But of course, they made their decisions initially, the organizations they partnered, and you know, that's not going to be changing yet, but it will change at some point. The question is when and for what organizations. But of course, in the same way that Bleed Esports, an organization that qualified through the Pacific Ascension last year into the regular Pacific League, they will need to ensure that they do well this year in the league, otherwise they lose their spots. That was a confirmation recently that it's no longer going to be, oh, you get promoted for 2 years, then you go back down. You get promoted for 1 year, as it is nowadays, and if you make the World Championship or if you do well in your region, then you get to stay. If you don't, then you are gone. So a similar thing will be happening on some level for the franchise teams, for the partner teams, but not in terms of results in the server, more in terms of what you're doing outside of the game. Few things on some individuals. Furia Khalil has had his contract extended from 24 to 26. That doesn't seem like he's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Starkso as well. He's an unrestricted free agent, so wishing him the best. Just loads of players I could go through as restricted or unrestricted free agents today. But another big one here being Mazzino, of course, on that Leviathan team this season that didn't quite get the result they wanted at the end of the year. A player that's been involved in, you know, various controversies and dramas, really. But he's confirmed he's a restricted free agent and Levers allowed him to explore options. So this is the same thing as Durka, but as I say, whenever somebody says they're an RFA, they ain't going back. Like, that's just how it is. The team's made their decision, they're going to move on, they're going to make a change. And as Chet said the other day, these teams are, you know, making changes. There's no doubt about that one. So, yeah, Mazzino is going to be gone from the team. Of course, it does raise questions in that role, in that situation. What other player could it be? We heard Sadak say not long ago now that he thinks that Sacy and Aspas want to team up again. again. Mazzino being gone does open the door potentially to Sacy to go to Lev, and we'll discuss in a second whether that is plausible or not based on the rumours around Sentinels. Ardis as well, as he says, hungry to play, let's build a dynasty brick by brick, and restricted free agent though he is from that Na'Vi roster, right? So, pretty funny how this all turned around, hasn't it? The whole Chinese stuff with Ardis, as he says, restricted free agent, open to EMEA or China. Could you imagine the scenes if Ardis goes and plays for a Chinese team? I would love it. I don't think it's going to happen, but it would be a storyline and a half, no doubt. Fnatic confirming that Hero is gone. I thought he did a very solid job here. Like, Leo, obviously he was unwell, and hopefully he's going to be better and everything for the start of the new season, right? I guess that's the plan here for Fnatic, but Leo was gone from the team, and Hero was good enough that you felt Leo's absence, but not to the extent that they might have done. So Hero's officially gone, as he says. Thanks to Fnatic for everything. Want to appreciate the whole experience, and I think that based on his performance on Fnatic, he should get some good and interesting offers for next season. You can even argue, I'd maybe argue, could they have kept him? Should they have kept him? I mean, possibly. Young player, not so much experience, but given the circumstances, right, is Leo, I guess they're confident Leo's coming back, and therefore it's nothing to worry about. But nonetheless, I mean, Durka's going to be gone. You've got to think about what they might change, if anything else, where they're on the Fnatic team. But of course, the rumour still is, to some extent, that, well, Fnatic are potentially looking for a Turkish duelist. We looked at that, Zeus player yesterday, some rumours about that. And obviously, people are kind of joking about the fact that effectively Fnatic are just, any old Turkish duelist. Like, let's just bring them into the roster right about now. Maybe on the Sentinel role as well is also possible. This, though, is the update on NRG. We know that Victor is gone. We know that Chet, their coach, is gone. Crashies is now gone as well, but actually fully gone. Unrestricted free agent. So they're not saying, okay, we're getting rid of you, but we want a buyout. They're saying, we don't want you at all. Like, you're completely gone, and we don't think we're going to get a buyout for you. Or they're doing a kind thing. I mean, it's obviously good for the player not to have to, be tenured to a contract, right? But they're letting him go for free. No buyout is going to be necessary. We'll see where Crashies goes next. I mean, he's obviously potentially got a future ahead of him. Maybe he'll team up with Victor again and become a duo with those guys, but you got to say that duo was not as impactful the last couple of years as it was during the Optic days, for example. And yeah, Crashies being gone should, I don't think, be much of a surprise. When Victor was gone, I felt like Crashies was potentially the next step there, especially when, if Bonkar's coming in as the head coach, there's other options that he will want to consider, such as who FNS mentions right at the start of the year. This, I'm pretty sure, is a clip from back in January when FNS was talking about Verno from the Oxygen Esports team being an incredibly good player and in some ways reminiscent of Crashies. FNS is on NRG. Bonkar, the coach of Oxygen Esports, is joining NRG. Let's put 2 and 2 together here.
I genuinely believe that Verno is a top 5 player in North America. I'll explain my thought process though, because I know it's a very hot take and it's a very controversial thing to say, considering this guy's never played at a tier 1 level yet. But one, I know when I watch a player what he is capable of doing, and he does it on a consistent basis. That's just my personal opinion. But it's not just his ability; it's the fact that to do it as consistently as he does it on the agents that he does it, he's literally mini Crashies, actually. And I think if he was placed on a franchise roster right now, he would dominate. Obviously, he's not going to be a top 5 player in the world because he's not going to be in a franchise team. But if he was in a franchise team, I guarantee he would be a top 5 player in NA. If I was making a team, I would get that guy right away.
Very plausible to me, based on those words, that Verno to NRG will at the very least be trialed or considered, and probably they might as well just sign the contract right about now before he goes somewhere else. That would be my take anyway. And as Crashy says, contract expiring, so I guess that's the point, right, that they didn't even have a contract to extend on NRG for the Crashy side, so his contract was going to expire. They just decided not to, ask to extend him, so he's going to be a UFA going into next season, and wishing Crashies the best. Of course, that core had to split up to some degree. A core that didn't necessarily have to split up, though, was Sentinels, but that seems to be exactly what is just about to happen. Sacy is reportedly not going to re-sign. Now, we've seen this from leakers over the last couple of weeks now. The likes of Rocket Bullets had it in his spreadsheet and all this type of stuff, but we hadn't really seen it from a more, more prominent journalist, shall we say. But Bruno Povaleri is definitely that tier from from the Brazilian scene. He's had multiple, successful correct leaks in the past, and that maybe is not going to change here, right? So he says yesterday that, yeah, this is a thing, that Sacy is not going to be re-signing with Sentinels. Now, this can go a couple of different directions. It can either be Sentinels deciding to move on and make a change, maybe that's part of it, or it's Sacy himself deciding to move on, because it's been a theory for quite some time now that after this season, Sacy might decide to step away from that Sentinels roster. And even as we saw, it was, Sadak say that Aspas and Sacy as a duo might well potentially happen. So, it's definitely plausible that occurs after this, and is he going to retire, or if he wants to keep playing, then it's going to have to be somewhere else. That's the latest rumour, and therefore, what do Sentinels do, right? Who do they bring in that role? That is a big question right now. Obviously, and understandably, there's been talk about the likes of Narrate, right? Whether Narrate could come into the roster is a very interesting prospect, absolutely, because we believe he's being linked to 100 Thieves. He's probably being linked to NRG again to some degree. And if Sentinels were to consider Narrate as well, that could be something to think about. But as it stands, it doesn't look like Sentinels are going to keep Sacy around. Where does Sacy go? That's another question. Obviously, Rob Moore also talking about the record they had on the season, what they're planning to do in the off-season, the tournaments they're planning to play in the off-season, and excited to see that, right? Obviously, they mentioned Gen.G, they mentioned Zelsis in their announcement. Zekken surely isn't going to go anywhere. Tens surely isn't going to go anywhere. The only change they were going to make, if anything, was going to be the Sacy thing. Is that introduced by Sacy? Is that introduced by the organisation? That is still a matter for debate, but if we find out more over the coming days, which maybe we will, then we'll be able to reach some further conclusions on where he's going to go, and also what Sentinels are potentially doing. It's probably not going to be this, but Sentinels come out with their own kind of engagement-related tweet. Tarek, Durka, Ares, Inspire, previously Baby J, and the guy, the Gunskin previews. That's going to be their team of 5. But very much into your thoughts in the comments below. And just to add one final bit of detail to this is Zelsis' story on Instagram yesterday after these rumours emerged of, a picture with himself and Sacy with a couple of heart emojis and that Sentinels. So, if we didn't think it was plausible before, unless Zelsis is kind of like impression farming here on his story, there's probably a realistic possibility that this is actually going to be coming true. Top 4 at Champs, you might want to consider a change. This was the change that seemed the most likely, but nonetheless still a bit of a shock after the great season they had. But very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.